Welcome back to Wall Street Silver. We have today a special guest again. Welcome back, Lobo Tiggre from the independentspeculator.com. Thanks for joining us, Lobo.
Thanks, guys, for having me back on. And I got to give you kudos for having me back on, because I know that some of your constituency was not entirely happy with everything I said last time. So
no, we like that. We also have the Bond King on, and he, Stephen Van Meter. They hated him. But
I'm sure.
And he's coming back. We invited him, but he's coming back on in like a couple of weeks. So
Lobo, you're one of our favorite manipulation deniers. So it's
yeah. We love to have him. But yeah, so bring it on. We love to have a good debate. We don't need people just to be in a bubble or an echo.
I give you kudos for that.
One of the things I heard you talk about recently was the current deflation argument. We're gold, silver bugs. And we all believe, all right, massive printing's going on. Can you give us the current, and I don't know if you believe it or not, but I heard you very eloquently give the deflation argument. Tell us, number one, what is the deflation argument? And number two, which side of that argument are you on that we're facing right now?
Right, so there's sort of two deflation arguments. The one would be sort of the gold and silver friendly argument from people like Lacey Hunt, or people who are fiscal conservatives and they understand hard money. They're not your mainstream gold and silver deniers, right? And their concern is that things that we see about how crazy the economy is, how crazy things are, and they see potential for real major harm coming to the economy, if not Doug Casey's greater depression that he's been predicting. Then at least a severe recession or some major response to the COVID shutdowns and all the economic harm that was done. We have these big shutdowns. Naturally, there's a little bit of a rebound. It remains to be seen whether that becomes the square root, right? There's a recovery and then there's a new level, or whether there's a dead cat bounce and actually it rolls over and goes much lower. And so if the economy goes into reverse, there's a reasonable argument for deflationary pressures stepping up in that case. And this would be an argument from fiscal conservatives, not the blue wave types. The other sort of more mainstream argument, of course, is that inflation has nothing to do with money printing. The Fed's policy and all the profligacy in Washington is completely irrelevant. And so, we may see deflation because money printing doesn't matter. I have a harder time with that one. I don't agree with the premises, and it also doesn't really square with the idea of, but everything's hunky-dory. We've solved all the problems. Everything's gonna be great. Well, if everything's gonna be great, the economy is gonna be great. Well, that by that mainstream definition is inflationary. But there are people out there who are trying to make the case anyway.
I think it's really important to separate out deflation and inflation of various components of that, because we could see severe asset deflation, stocks, bonds, real estate, and we can see severe inflation on commodities and food,
and we've seen
they all
it
get
before.
lumped in together all the time. And I think that,
if, as you well remember, I'm surely we saw that post 2008. We had actually a massive deflation in asset values in 2008, 2009. But that really didn't mean that people's lifestyle was any cheaper, right? The cost of living didn't go down. I do think that's important. But in terms of, there's one thing if we're buying bullion as savings, which is what I do. I don't think of gold and silver as a speculation at all. It's where I put my savings. But as a speculator, I do look at the gold and silver prices, and I want to try to get a feel for where they're likely to go. So this question is very important to that. If you want to speculate on the stocks, the related stocks, which I do, then I need to know if there's going to be a deflation and what's that going to do to gold and silver and how long. And the closer I can approximate that, the better off my speculations will be.
What do you think about this big move on Sunday night? I mean, do you think this was a capitulation sell-off, or do you think that it was just the start of the next wave down?
So yeah, I saw this happening Sunday night, and I thought, wow, this could be big. And by the way, I have more than 10% cash. I have an embarrassing amount of cash in my account, but partly not because I expected this, but I've actually been concerned about a major market crash and wanted to have a stash. Just like if we had another March of 2020 event, I wanted to have cash for that.
Uh-huh.
So
Do you think that this sell-off in gold and silver could be foretelling such a sell-off?
No, I think
Broader
they're
markets?
different. I mean, that would be Wall Street selling off, and then everything else getting whacked just
Oh,
because.
I
of
understand that,
panic.
but you know, they tend to sell off together. I mean, you look at March 2020, you know, people just, there's a flight to quality, people panic, people start selling assets.
Yeah,
They
margin
all kind of fall together.
margin calls happen, and
Exactly.
even the
Right,
gold and silver gets
but
sold.
the
with
crash
margin
happens
calls.
first. Like, I think gold gets whacked in that circumstance because people need the liquidity.
Okay, fair
and-
enough.
And so that happens first.
Yeah.
But so to answer the question, when I saw that waterfall event, I thought, whoa, this could be triggering something big. And then it turned around. And by the way, it turned around when then the DXY also turned around. So maybe the move wasn't as big, but that turnaround happened at the same time gold and silver turned back up again. But the good news here is what I'm trying to get to is that, I thought there was a potential for serious damage there. And the way it turned around and came not all the way back up to where it was, but very quickly recovered. I thought that was interesting because the sentiment in the gold and silver space is so bearish. Even industry insiders, they're so negative. People are, it's amazing to me that you can have gold stay around $1,800 an ounce, a previously unthinkable price to be stable at, and silver around $25 for a year, and have people just so negative in that kind of environment. It blows my mind. But there it is.
You should read some of the comments on our videos from people. Talk about negativity.
I do, but it's not good for my blood pressure.
But it's on Reddit. It's on Reddit also. People are just.
I'm like, go try and buy a silver eagle right now. They're like over $30.
I understand.
Now.
But think about the significance of that. So you have this just enormous bearishness, and you get this waterfall event, and you would think that would be the straw that breaks the camel's back. Everybody's like, that's it. I'm done. Totally manipulated market. I'm out. Right?
Those comments are out there. I'm done. I've seen them.
But
but it's not everyone. People are stepping in and buying.
That's right. But a lot. There's a significant buy. There wasn't just a buy the dip. There was a holy cow. This is an opportunity buy out there. And that also happened in the middle of the night, by the way.
But that's the other thing is, at the end of the day, this was futures market. This was paper. It wasn't the real market. This was the stupid market, right? This is the fake market. And so us as stackers, should we really even give a shit what's going on? Really, nothing really changed in the actual physical market here. It was the thing that we always criticize, the paper market.
Yes.
So why do we care? I get upset with myself.
As stackers, we don't. We've just established that as stacker savings, other than as a buying opportunity, we don't. As a speculator on the stocks, however, if something like this changes the fundamentals, if the market changed, and by the way, the free weekly digest I put out every Saturday, this weekend's edition was called "Has the Financial World Just Changed?" Mm-hmm. And that wasn't because I knew what was happening Sunday night. I did this Saturday.
Yeah.
It was because of Friday. And we saw a major event on Friday. And my question to the audience, to the readers was, look, okay, we saw a significant impact on gold and silver on Friday. But has anything really changed?
Nope.
No. Really, just the fact that the employment number came in higher than expected in a recovery, a post-lockdown, is almost meaningless, really. Of course, there's recovery post-lockdown.
It's people coming back to jobs. It's not
people coming back to their jobs. It doesn't mean the economy is healthy. And you look at the employment participation rate, right? That is still at levels that we haven't seen since the 70s. Like the employment participation rate has been higher, and then you have this huge cliff with COVID-19 in 2020, and it's bounced up a little bit, but it's nowhere near where it's been for literally decades.
Yeah.
So how can we have a healthy economy? How can everybody be saying, okay, everything is great, everything's fine now, when the employment participation rate is still where it hasn't been for decades? So I just don't think the world suddenly got better. That one report does not constitute a healthy economy.
No, and the money velocity has just been absolutely god awful.
Yes. And so, well, okay, we can talk about that if you want. That's an interesting topic. But I just want to stress this for the audience, because if the reality hasn't changed, if the context hasn't changed, if the fundamentals haven't changed, if the value proposition in front of us really hasn't changed, and all that's changed is price, that actually presents opportunity. This is something Doug Casey taught me over the decades. It was one of the first sort of Caseyisms that I really imbibed. And that is, when price and value diverge, and it can be one way or the other, but when price and value diverge, which often happens in markets which are emotional and overreact, they get overbought, oversold. Whenever price and value diverge, there is opportunity. So actually, I bought a stock on Friday. Oddly enough, I saw this happening, and I set out to buy gold and silver stocks thinking there'd be some deals. And it seems like a lot of the people who are in the stocks, they understand this quality issue, and the better stocks didn't really sell off as much as you might think. On a big crash day like Friday, you'd think all the gold and silver stocks would be in the circular swirly heading down, but not really.
Yeah.
So I ended up buying a copper stock that was on sale. But go figure. But I do put my money where my mouth is. On Friday, I was telling people price, value, these things we're discussing. And so I went shopping, and, I got a copper stock.
Well, here's my question. So the near-term catalyst for gold and silver, people are thinking, all right, the federal government, the US government's about to do what? There's the bipartisan infrastructure bill that's, 1 point something trillion. Then there's the Democrat only version that's 3.5 trillion. So we're looking at 4.5 plus trillion, 4.75, 4 point something like that trillion dollars in new infrastructure spending over X number of years, none of which is probably paid for. I know they say it's parts of it are paid for, but it's really not. And so, from the typical gold silver bugs perspective is, all right, how much of this is the Fed going to have to print to cover and in the general account balance, the cash balance of the US Treasury is now run down pretty low, and they're bumping up against the debt ceiling. And what typically happens in the past after they raise the debt ceiling is the Treasury, all of a sudden the debt just explodes, because boom, they go on a huge Treasury selling spree to run up their cash balance again. So, I mean, are you thinking about any of that? I don't even know if that's part of your analysis.
Sure.
For what you look at for gold and silver. But what's your thought on that in terms of a near-term catalyst for gold or silver? Is it an issue or not an issue?
No, it's an issue, but oddly enough, I think the actual infrastructure spending, and of course, a lot of this so-called infrastructure isn't infrastructure at all, but the small part of it that is infrastructure spending, to the degree that it gets spent on infrastructure, and especially the green infrastructure, which is favored in this stuff, that's very bullish for silver.
Yeah.
As you guys know well, silver is one of the new energy paradigm minerals. It's essential for the solar component. So I'm not telling you anything new that you don't know. We all know it's in there. So actually, these infrastructure things, as a fiscal conservative, I'm opposed to them. As a silver bug, hey, they're a huge tailwind for my silver investments.
Oh, yeah, the solar requirements, the green. I don't think that people have caught on to this, and I have read the details and know what you're referring to, but the clean or the renewable energy mandates in there, regardless, even though it's not really people, hey, I got a news flash for you. Silver and wind, they're not really renewable energy. But that's another debate, another video. But the mandates in there for solar are just insane. I mean, solar is probably going to triple or quadruple in the next 5 to 10 years based on this bill that's about to pass. And solar is already consuming what, 60, 70 million ounces a year in silver.
And then you've got the EU, and I mean, all
Oh, yeah.
stuff. I haven't done the math recently, and I know that the technology has changed. They are working on reducing the amount of silver required, but it's marginal.
Oh yeah, they can reduce it a little, but they can't get rid of the silver.
The last time I had numbers on this, I estimated that the average single family home has somewhere on the order of 1 kilo of silver on their roof if they go completely solar.
I'd just like to say we had a very interesting conversation with Tom Thornton over the weekend about hedge funds. and he's very aware of the fundamental case for silver. And he basically said that, you know, just waiting for the catalyst. So just imagine what's going to happen to the price of silver if there is a catalyst, and all of a sudden all those hedge funds out there who are sitting on money just pile into this market.
Yeah, I'm of mixed feelings on that. That if that happens, I agree, it's huge, right? I mean, Rick Rule likes to talk about how the allocation to gold is only 0.5% globally, and historically it's 2%. So if it just reverts to the mean, demand for gold has to quadruple. I think for silver, it's I don't know what the numbers are, but I think it's basically zero. I mean, silver is regarded by mainstream people as an industrial metal only. I mean, governments hoard gold still. Basel III applies to gold, not silver. I think from the mainstream perspective, silver is not money anymore. It's just this funky industrial metal with a weird history. So I think the allocation is essentially zero. And if it becomes something that hedge funds or sovereigns or anybody with, you know, big money pensions, whatever, if anybody decides, oh, we need allocation to silver, I do think that's a game changer. I do think that really blows the lid off this market. But I'm not convinced that has to happen. If they're worried, if they want metals or hard assets in their portfolio, it's much more convenient to just buy gold. You can get physical segregated allocation in a much smaller and more convenient space if you just buy gold.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that will happen. I'm just saying I think it's a mistake to conclude that we know for sure that all these funds are going to pile in. They might, or they might just go with gold. We'll see. But a lot of the pushback when I say this is, oh, but silver has more upside. You just said silver has more upside. Yeah, but I'm a speculator. If I'm a pension fund manager, I'm not a speculator. I'm looking for safety. I'm not looking for the more upside in silver than gold. I'm looking for the least risk and maybe hardening my portfolio a little bit. So I'm not sure that I would think of silver in that way if I were wearing that hat.
What is your current silver target? Do you have one?
No, I don't do targets. I'm happy just to get the direction right. I think it's going much higher. I have said, and I do stand by this, that I can see it spiking to triple digits.
And then higher.
But on a sustained price level, I don't see that. Or if it stays there, we will have such high levels of inflation that on an inflation equivalent, you know, adjusted basis, it wouldn't be what it would seem to be. Like everything else would be really expensive too.
It's like why keep valuing it in dollar terms at that point?
Yes,
right?
at that point, right. So yes, so how many loaves of bread can we buy with the silver? That would be a much better metric at that point.
Or I think James Anderson and Dave Kranzler, they just gave me the house to silver ratio.
There you go.
The house to gold ratio.
So for the 2 or 3 listeners we have left that I haven't totally pissed off yet, you know, I do actually think that in this context, that silver remains high. It remains historically high, nominally high. I don't think it goes back to $5 or something like that. I think the industrial use cases, as well as the just emperor has no clothes becoming increasingly obvious. The Bitcoin thing, the crypto phenomenon, shows that more and more people, especially younger people, get that the emperor has no clothes. And they only use fiat because you got to. It's the law, right? Yeah. But so I think all of that is very bullish for silver, and I don't see silver. I mean, I think it spikes and then it comes down to some higher level than now, and I think that lasts decades. For the same reason I'm bullish on copper for decades, I'm bullish on silver for decades. I think the monetary side of it is what causes other fluctuations there. Look, guys, I'm a silver bug. I'm bullish on silver. I've got silver right here. I've got a bunch of, by the way, since we last talked.
Yeah, show us your stack.
Silver wolves. I don't know if you see the wolf on there.
Yeah.
I loaded up on silver wolves.
Yeah. Where's that one from?
Canada, of course.
Canada, yeah.
Okay. Is it from
Canada's got like some great wildlife series.
Oh, is that from the Canadian Mint? Something they make besides the maple leaf?
And I've got tubes of it. I'm not just going up. So
I'm guessing you like wolves.
I do like wolves. That is what Lobo means. So listen.
Let's show what happened last night.
I just want to say this. Sorry, let me just finish the statement. I'm going to say things you're going to disagree with. Okay.
That's fine.
That doesn't mean I'm Darth Vader's long lost brother. It doesn't mean I hate silver. And, you know, if you can't agree to disagree agreeably with people, honestly, I think that reflects more on you than me. So please listen to me. Let's have a civil conversation. I want to contribute ideas. I want to contribute value to you here. And if you disagree with me, that's fine. But let's disagree like adults, all right?
That's
Okay,
fine.
so bring it on.
We're there with you, Lobo. We can disagree and talk about it. So it is Monday at 5 p.m. for when we're making this video. I'm going to have this video out on Tuesday tomorrow. So people in the comments, stop complaining. I get these videos out as quick as I can. So looking at the graph, this is Sunday night trading, and someone felt the need Sunday evening when volume is the thinnest to sell just a shitload of gold and silver, because the exact same thing happened on the gold chart and the silver chart. It's uncanny what happened Sunday night. You can see here. Hey, Lobo, I mean, let's try to come. I know you're not a big believer in the manipulation thing. Let's come up with a rational reason. If someone had to sell a ton of silver or a ton of gold paper contracts on the Globex as soon as it opens Sunday evening, what's a rational reason to do? And we don't know the exact number. I'm sure someone
I get it. I understand the
what's
question.
the rational reason in such thin trading to just go dump it all
Right.
Sunday evening?
So bear in mind that what we call the middle of the night is not the middle of the night in Asia. So we're talking about when markets opened elsewhere. And also those markets would have closed sooner on Friday when we had, big, you're talking about what's the reason? There were reasons on Friday for these markets to move. And some folks in Asia that would have been aftermarket for them. So this was something I remember analysts talking about on Friday afternoon. We need to look and see what happens Sunday night when the markets open for these people. So there were people who were out of the trade or out of the room, out of the deal at that time, Friday afternoon, and their first chance to react was that Sunday night. So you said I'm your favorite manipulation denier. I'm not saying that there is no manipulation. I'm saying that there is another explanation here.
Okay.
Like you asked me, what other explanation could there be? Well, that's one of them, that this was the first chance for people in Asia to respond to Friday's shenanigans. The other thing is, though, you looked at I'm glad, by the way, that you put the gold and silver chart up there. It drives me crazy when people say, oh, look at what silver did. What happened? Why? Well, did you look at gold? Gold did it too. So it's not just silver, right? There's something going on there.
But that's a good point. There was no course, the move in the DXY or the 10-year treasury was not nearly as violent.
But it was there. I'm glad you brought that up.
It was kind of minor. That was kind of minor though in those other.
Yes, I get that they're out of proportion, and the reaction was very strong. But if you look at the timing, and you look at the DXY, and it spiked. I mean, a small spike, but it spiked at the exact same time. So, hypothesizing here, you have a sharp movement in the DXY. It triggers some sell orders, and maybe that just pushed things to a level where that created a cascade effect. You triggered stops, and that triggered other stops, and you have a quick cascade downwards. Now, logically, this does not disprove the manipulation hypothesis, but you asked me how else could this have happened? That's how this could have happened.
Yeah, it's a fair debate. I mean, and hey, we're not going to solve it today between you and me, but there's people who look at that and they go, that looks fishy. All right. And it's a fair. It
does. I'm not saying it doesn't.
Yeah.
I'm answering the question of how else could this have happened.
Yeah,
here's a scenario that explains that.
Gotcha. Lee, any other questions?
No, this has been a heck of a conversation.
Yeah. We got good content out of this one. Well, Lobo, I just want to thank you very much. Do you have any final wrap up thoughts you want to share?
I just want to, I guess, invite the people all 2 or 3 of you who are still listening.
There's a few more than that.
You don't have to agree with me, but please don't conclude that I'm evil just because I don't think exactly what you think. I mean, come on.
Well, you do have the evil guy goatee going on. So
well, yeah, I do have that. But if you want, my promise here is not to tell you what you want to hear. My promise is to tell you what I think and to give you the best judgment I possibly have to offer you. If that interests you, I have a free weekly letter that we mentioned before, and I promise you we don't spam you. That I can promise. If you sign up for that, you get 1 email per week. That's it. No daily flood of advertisements. and I'll give you my best judgment on the weekly developments in these markets.
Well, with that note, thank you very much. We'll have you back in 2 or 3 months, Lobo, and we'll get you some more hate mail.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Lobo. I appreciate it.